Hello and welcome back to Dawn Chorus Writes Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction and audio fiction. This is the mini-series for Marishat Monday called Romeo and His Marinette, and it's part of With Love February, and we are on part 4. So make sure you smash the like button down below, send some love over to Kim for the use of her beautiful stunning artwork in the thumbnail. All her information is down below. Make sure you comment, tell me what you think of this part and what you think will happen in the future one, and make sure you subscribe so you do not miss out on future parts and other series and one-shots to come, and I hope you enjoy. Part 4, Marinette's POV. Oh, that cat! Marinette paced across her bedroom, attempting to look through her lines one last time before Adrien arrived. How on earth am I meant to focus? I mean, imagine Adrien as my Romeo after what Cat pulled last night.
When he said he loved you, or the 2 kisses?
Tiki teased a little. Tiki! Marinette would have thought her little Kwame would have been mad at her last night when she jumped back through the skylight after watching Kitty leap off, but she hadn't. In fact, she had thought it was sweet. How can she think this was a good idea? But oh, that kiss. The first one had been her fault, taken in by the night before, their teasing and the way he had looked at her. She had thought a simple kiss with Cat, it wouldn't mean as much, and then it took the nerves away for when she had to kiss Adrien, but the tingle of the kiss, how he held her close, the way he had kissed her back. But she had tried to convince herself she was fine. It was all fine. But then her silly, adorable Kitty had stopped her, pulled her in, cupped her face, and told her he loved her. It was the first time anyone had spoken those 3 words to her, and he meant it. She knew her partner well enough now, could read his face, know when he was being earnest, and knew part of her wanted it too. The part of her that was trying to step back from Adrien had been seeing her Kitty differently, but she had thought Ladybug. Yet he said it to Marinette in a way he had never said it to Ladybug, with such tenderness. And oh, that second kiss. It was everything she had dreamed a kiss to be, melting into his arms as he held her tight, her heart beating in a way she couldn't catch her breath. Cat, why did you have to shake my world upside down like that? She had no idea what to say and ended up saying it all wrong. Could she love her Kitty? Did she love her Kitty?
Marinette, Adrien will be here soon.
Tiki flew in front of her face, grabbing her attention back into the room. Adrien, yes, I had better... She glanced around the room she had prepared this morning, pushing back the furniture against the wall with a little too much force as she had ranted about last night to Tiki, comparing it to the guy she was about to spend the day with. Adrien, the boy she had been... was? Oh, she didn't know now. 3 years was a long time to wait for someone to return your affection, or even confess to them in the first place. She had thought she had made progress yesterday. How they had chatted through the messages had never happened before. Some of them had been a tiny bit flirty, and was looking forward to today. And then that cat, that handsome, beautiful souled cat, had done what she had always dreamed Adrien would do, resulting in her heart now split in 2.
Marinette, I get you have a lot on your mind now, but you really need to stop zoning out and get ready.
Tiki let out a little chuckle and rubbed her cheek. Tiki, the space is ready. I have snacks ready. What more do I need to do?
Maybe get dressed?
Marinette shot her eyes down at the pajamas she was still wearing. ginger snaps. She quickly glanced at her clock. She had 20 minutes. Shower or not to shower, that is the question. No, shower. She had the time. She used her new raspberry and shea butter shampoo and wash and picked out a cute dress she had made a while back, but hadn't dared wear it yet. A simple A-line dress that hugged her a little around the waist and 3/4 sleeves, but it wasn't in her usual colour of pink, white and grey. Instead, it was black. It had reminded her of the time she had been Lady Noir, and even stitched on a little green paw print along the bottom, near the hem of the skirt on one side. But after last night, she couldn't wear this, or could she? Had she picked it out because of her? No, she would need to change, and her hair, hanging loosely over her shoulders. No, a t-shirt, a denim skirt, hair pulled back, yeah. The doorbell rang. Ginger snaps. Her parents were out this morning, having lunch with friends, making their excuses to give her space to rehearse, but it also meant there was no one to answer the door, which meant, ginger snaps. She took a deep breath. Okay, I can do this. It's just a play, a day. It's Adrien. Hello. His eyes shifted from his bag to her face. Morning, Marinette. She dropped her eyes from his sudden piercing gaze and had stood to one side and to allow him to enter. Come in, please. Yes, thank you. Sorry about yesterday. You look beautiful. He shuffled into the living space, glancing around the room and rubbing his neck. Thank you. Is it one of your new designs? I don't think I've seen it. Yeah. Do you want some tea or coffee before we start? She turned her back on him, grateful for the distraction. Why was he looking at her that way? Studying her? Coffee would be good. I had a late night. His tone held a hint of nervousness. Why was he suddenly being like this with her? He was a professional model and actor. Why on earth would he be anxious about performing the play? She reached up on her tippy toes and grabbed 2 cups out of the cupboard. Adrien chuckled. Can I help? No, I've got this, she said, stumbling around on her own feet and dropping one of the cups. Adrien lunged forward and caught it before it could hit the ground. Here! Wow, impressive reflexes, Adrien. Thank you. Her fingers slipped over his as she took the cup back. Was he blushing? Your fencing moves come in handy. Yeah, fencing. He removed his hand from around the cup and took a step back. The strong aroma billowing out of the coffee pot on the stove helped to keep her focus and not start wandering on another person who had cat-like reflexes. How do you take it? Milk and sugar? He nodded. She smiled, focusing back on task and not on Adrien, who was acting strangely behind her. So, the play. I don't know about you, I'm a little nervous. Performing it in front of everyone. I've been practicing. The image of Kitty on her balcony, speaking out the words of Romeo, flooded her mind. Yeah, me too. But I know what you mean, he said in a soft voice. Coffee! She handed it to him. His fingers brushed against hers again and felt a tingle sweep across the top of her skin. Pastries? She squeaked, gesturing to the freshly baked croissants and pain au chocolat. Her laughter erupted out of Adrien's chest as he reached for a croissant and couldn't help herself joining in. Oh, this was silly. Why was there suddenly tension between them? Thanks, Marinette. Can I see the designs you were showing me yesterday? She knew her cheeks were red as she brushed back the hair falling across her face, glancing a look at him through her lashes and saw a hint of pink on his. Yeah, sure. Okay, deep breath. Clear your mind of tangled thoughts between Adrien and now Kat. She needed to focus. She gestured for him to follow her up the stairs, maybe once they rehearse, and pretending to be Romeo and Juliet. Oh, ginger snaps. She pushed open the trapdoor and picked up the jacket she was in the middle of making for Adrien off the back of the chair, whilst her dress was pinned to the mannequin. She had come up with the design when watching the more modern Romeo and Juliet yesterday. It was a blend between a biker jacket, but more formal and fitted lines closer to Elizabethan clothing. She had used a jade green fabric closer to the colour of his eyes. She had been lost in the concept between designing and talking to him, but now she was holding it out in front of him. Was it too personal? Gave away too many of her secret feelings. Adrien stepped into her bedroom, a space he had only been a handful of times as Adrien, but been a lot more than Kat. He noticed the furniture had been pushed back against the walls so they had more space to rehearse. She was so thoughtful that way. Then something green flashed into the corner of his eyes, grabbing his attention. It was inspiring. Carefully, he placed down his coffee and pastry, not giving a second thought as he wiped his hands on his trousers without a care and stepped forward to her, with his eyes wide and mouth open. Those photos didn't do it justice, he muttered after what felt like the longest 2 minutes. She stood there, holding the jacket in front of her, blushing, and had that anxious look in her eyes. I thought you could wear it with your jeans and a plain white t-shirt. Keep the rest simple, do you really like it? I mean, it's kind of in the style, but I wanted a more modern look with the fitting. He took a step closer, wanting so much to grab it out of her hands and study every aspect of it, to marvel at the fact that she had made it for him. I love it, Marinette. It's amazing. He automatically grabbed a tissue from the side where she had always kept a box of them and wiped his hands again, removing the butter. May I? Can I try on? The grin spread from her lips to her eyes. Oh, they sparkled like the stars. If you don't mind some pins, I could do with fitting it a little more. I could only go on rough measurements. I think I'm used to that, Marinette. He gave her a small smirk, which only made her laugh with embarrassment. But as soon as he slipped on the jacket, he watched her go into design mode. He stood rigid still. To her, it had become another mannequin, focusing on repinning certain parts. It took every strength he had not to melt under her touch, as her hands ran along some of the seams across his back. But the hardest was when she seemed to have forgotten how close she was standing against him. The scent of creamy raspberry filled his senses as her hair brushed against his cheek. Okay, hold it together, Adrien. You have done countless fittings before. This isn't anything different. But then memories of last night flashed into him, of the same scent engulfed him as her lips pressed against his. Oh, it was as if she could read his thoughts. Her eyes caught his as she looked up from aligning the collar. He couldn't help himself, darting a quick glance at her lips and then back at her eyes. He had told her last night he loved her. No, that had been Kat, not Adrien. He glanced continued downwards to the floor and she stepped back. She had kissed him back but hadn't returned the feelings. So what if she doesn't like Kat that way? But what if she doesn't like Adrien that way either? Okay, stay in the room and out of your head. Adrien, you okay? She was peering into his face, her eyebrows raised slightly in concern. Yeah, fine. Sorry. I'm finished. Do you mind if I take it off now? She did that gesture again, stroking the hair behind her ear. If only he could do it for her, an excuse to touch her cheek again, but this time to feel her skin. Mind the pins, don't want you to get stabbed now. She let out a light giggle through her smile and felt his heart glow. Oh, it stopped. It stopped beating. She was cradling his hand in hers whilst tugging carefully at the sleeves to slip it out. She let go and it started beating again, but all too soon it stopped once more as she repeated the same action on the other side. Why couldn't he be bold and tell her how she made him feel? But he had done that as Cat, and he didn't want to overwhelm her. That wouldn't be fair, would it? It's going to be amazing, Marinette. Thanks, Adrien. Now that is done, shall we rehearse? I mean, that is what you came for, not me to poke you with pins. She was looking away from him, focusing on the jacket, but did that gesture which he'd started to fall in love with, hoping it was a sign that maybe she was nervous for another reason. Yeah, do you want to go from the start of the scene? He pulled his own copy of the book out of his bag, not that he really needed it. She laughed, placing the jacket over the shoulders of her own dress on the mannequin, as if his Romeo was giving her Juliet a hug from behind. Then he realized he'd been so in awe of what she had created for him, he had failed to notice her own dress. Nice one, Aggress. How to look like you have an ego. He stepped closer to it, admired the flowing, shifting fabric, the simple but effective layer effect of the long skirt compared to the more modern design of the top half, which seemed to be fitted compared to the lower half. But what made it perfect was that it was her usual pink colour, complementing the jade green jacket. Yeah, I think that would be best, don't you? She stepped back, not realizing he was behind her, and stumbled into him. He dropped his book, reaching out for her before she had a chance to fall. Oh, sorry, Adrien, I didn't see. Her face so close to his, fingers gripping into her waist, which wasn't blocked by a big jumper this time. Oh, if only he could be as bold as Cat, her kitty. Another moment had passed. My fault, Marinette. She began to pull herself upright and out of his hold, smoothing down her dress when he noticed for the first time the cat noir paw print at the hem. Maybe she did like Cat after all, wearing this dress after last night. But hadn't the aim been for Marinette to like Adrien and not Cat? To be in a relationship where he could take her out on dates rather than hide in the shadows. I was admiring the dress you made for yourself. You are going to make a stunning Juliet. His words seemed to wash over her as she became lost in thought, wanting so much to repeat his Cat line. Then again, who needs a Juliet when you have a Marinette? Oh, why hadn't he listened to Plague and not made this more complicated than it needed to be? Shall we then? He reached down and grabbed his book, making his way to the makeshift stage. Oh, yeah. She followed his lead, but started to make her way up towards her mezzanine bed. I thought this would work as a balcony, for rehearsal, I mean. That's a great idea. He smiled, bringing back more memories of their previous rehearsal. Adrien started, repeating the same lines he had said the other night, watching the blush form on her cheeks and trying his hardest to remove his inner cat from the speech. When it came to Marinette's turn, she kept a sight from him and spoke to the corner of the room, but still he was hypnotized at her speaking the words with such emotions up close. As they continued, the more into the characters they became and lost some of their nerves and added in direction as they went. With love's light wings I do approach these walls, for stony limits cannot hold love out, and what love can do, that dares love attempt. Therefore thy kinsmen's are no stop to me. Adrien made his way to the foot of the ladder steps. If they do see thee, they will murder thee. For the first time, she glanced down at him before looking at the text in the book. Alack, there lies more perils in thine eyes than 20 of their swords. Look thou but sweet, and I am proof against thy enmity. I would not for the world they saw thee here. Adrien took a few of the steps closer to her. I have night's cloaks to hide me from their eyes, but thou love me? Let them find me here. My life were better ended by their hate than death prolonged, wanting thy love. He smiled at the blush forming in her cheeks. By whose direction foundest thou this place? By love, that first did prompt me to inquire. He lent me counsel, and I lent him eyes. I am no pilot, yet wert thou as far as the vast shores awash the further seas, I would adventure for such merchandise. Thou knowest the mask of the night is on my face, else would a maiden blush be painted my cheeks, for thou which thou heardst me speak tonight. Fain, I do dwell on form, fain deny what I have spoke, but farewell compliment. Thou'st love me. I know thou wilt say aye, and I will take thy word. Yet, if thou swearest, thou may prove false. At lovers' perjuries, they say, Joe laughs. Oh, gentle Romeo, if thou love me, pronounce it faithfully. Or, if thou thinkest I'm too quickly won, I'll frown and be persuade and say thee nay, so thou will woo, but else not for the world. In truth, fair Montague, I am too fond, and therefore thou mayest think my haver light. But trust me, gentlemen, I'll prove more true than those who have more coping to be strange. I should have been more strange, I must confess, but thou overheardst I was where my true love passion. Therefore pardon me, and not impute this yielding to light love, which the dark night has so discovered. He had found himself 2/3 of the way up the ladder as she leant closer, pulled towards her, not by Shakespeare's words, but by the tone she had used, held a form of truth. Lady, by yonder blessed moon I vow, that tips with silver all these fruit tree tops. Oh, swear not by the moon, by inconstant moon, that monthly changes in circle orb, lest thy love prove likewise variable. He took another step higher. What shall I swear by? Do not swear at all. Or if thou swear, by gracious self, which is the god of my idolatry, and I'll believe thee. If my heart still love, I love you. Before he knew what was happening, his lips were touching hers, and had taken the last step, now kneeling at her side. The kiss was light at first, until he found his hand in her hair, pulling in tighter as she kissed back. They let go of each other, his head spinning from lack of air. Marinette, Adrien, did you say? Her eyes were wide in disbelief. Yeah, I did, he breathed. Thank you for listening to part 4. I know it's a bit of a cliffhanger. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you smash that like button. Comment down below what you thought of it and what will happen next in part 5, and I hope and make sure you subscribe so you do not miss out on a future part and other bonuses and parts to come. And I hope you are good, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.